Patch version 0.19 is here, and with it comes an overhaul to jungle experience gain, helping junglers be more on par with other players in the match without having to go above and beyond in their performance. Speaking of the jungle, the new Offlane jungle hybrid fighter, Terra, has entered the battlefield and everyone has taken notice. ADCs have also taken yet another hit, hopefully bringing them in line on strength, no longer being able to one-tap even the tankiest of heroes. Now that we've been with 6 items for over a month, we have a much better understanding of how characters have shaped up, so hopefully, I personally will do a better job of rating every character from the depths of C tier all the way up to the throne of Paragon. Version 0.19.1 came out a lot faster than expected while I was already working on this video to even further shake things up. My name is Bad News Bears, and this is the Predecessor version 0.19.1 tier list. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Coming in hot to the offlane is Predecessor's newest hero, Terra. Right out the gate, she has proven herself as the premier fighter class hero in Predecessor. With unmatched 1v1 potential, Terra is terrorizing her lane opponents. Grux, Quang, Crunch, all no problem for her and her shield. Terra comes equipped with a whole arsenal of tools in her kit, a dash that knocks up the first target hit, and if enhanced with her passive, gives her a nice shield that she can use to absorb damage during trades, or for some extra bulk in a teamfight. Terra also has a throwable axe that pierces minions, slowing or rooting a target if enhanced to further interrupt and lock down targets. Not only can Terra lock down enemies, she can put some solid damage of her own with her primary ability, letting her swing her axe twice, but if enhanced by her passive, she gets an additional swing that hits for true damage. While all that is great, what happens when she's against a heavy CC comp? Well, even that can't stop her, as her ult grants her CC immunity, trumping pesky CC heavy champs like Aurora and Steel. While Offlane has some real monsters right now, Terra brings pretty much everything to the table. It's possible Omega didn't realize the power they gave her. With all this, she lands in Paragon tier. Grux has been firmly in control of the offlane, but with version 0.19, some hefty nerfs were thrown his way, losing Omnivamp on his passive by 2% at base, going up to 5% at max level, hurting all phases of his game. Smash and Grab loses 15 base damage at all levels, Double Pain scaling down 10%, and his ultimate, Warlord's Challenge, is on a 10-second longer cooldown, and his physical power steal effect is down 1 at all levels. Not to mention nerfs to Sky Splitter's lifesteal. While Grux is still a menace, he now struggles in 1v1s where he previously wouldn't have had such a hard time like Quang or Terra. While he can still outbox a majority of foes, his lack of sustain means he can't stay on the map as long and has to be more mindful of when trades can be taken. This, on top of his struggles to enter teamfights and deal with ranged damage dealers, Grux is now finding himself ranked in A tier. A breakdown of offlane, Terra saw a strong release and is sitting firmly in Paragon tier. Greystone saw some buffs, resulting in him joining Aurora, Quang, and Xeris, who wasn't nerfed quite hard enough in S tier. The A tier is heavily populated, with some offlaners who haven't seen many drastic balance changes recently, like Fangmao, Crunch, Shinbi, and Seraph. Grux, however, saw some pretty significant nerfs, so he's landing in here too. Steel also joining the squad in A tier with some recent buffs to tanks and his shocking damage output. In B tier, we find our two tanky boys, Severog and Richter, who struggle to make a consistent impact in lane. Rounding out the tier list, we have Kallari and Countess. While they can shine in the odd game, most cases they're underwhelming or too unintuitive to be played effectively in offlane, so they land in C tier. Not only is Terra terrorizing the offlane, she's arguably been an even more dominant force in the jungle, with great healthy clear on par or better than the majority of the jungle roster. Terra has decent mobility, as well as an amazing kit for ganking, with 2 separate options to start off with. Terra's dash allows her to initiate ganks from the fog wall, deal damage, and close the distance, as well as CC, all with one ability that is hard to react to if you're on the receiving end. Another option is to throw an enhanced axe to apply a root to set up a chain CC, or to allow your laner to hit a follow-up ability to apply damage. Post level 6, things only get better. Any enemy even slightly out of position is left optionless, with Terra's ult granting her a fairly large window of CC immunity. Even better than Terra's ability to gank is her immense ability to take on any character one-on-one situation. Terra can easily outbox fighters or bruisers, chop down tanks, as well as lock down and burst down assassins, notably Kallari. With great use of Berserker's Axe, Augmentation, Mutilator, Tainted Blade, and nearly every tank item, Terra has a massive diversity and an answer to every situation. She's such a menace right now that I have to put Terra easily in Paragon tier. Kallari has entered the spotlight with a base attack speed buff of 5 going up to a total of 120 and an attack speed growth buff of 0.4 going up to 2 flat. This is a sneaky buff that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but did a massive amount of work. Kallari's biggest issue in recent patches was her clear speed and abysmal clear health. With Kallari having a mark to stem her damage on a target with her new and improved attack speed, you can get much more value on marked targets with just autos. Now, with these attack speed changes, her first clear is faster than the majority of the roster, as well as significantly improved her clear health, leaving her first side at basically full HP. This enables Kallari to find much easier ganks in the early game, helping her snowball right out of the gate. Changes to jungle experience this patch also means Kallari isn't nearly as at risk of being behind the curve. Even with Terra coming out as a bad matchup, Kallari has the mobility to work around her and find angles in fights to one-shot mages or ADCs. Kallari has easily snuck her way into S tier. Jumping into the full jungle tier list, where we find the role has a healthy amount of heroes in good standing. Terra finds herself atop a second role, landing in Paragon. Chimera, Quang, Greystone, Xeris, Kallari, and Aurora have all been tuned for better or worse in recent patches and are all performing above average. They'll get to spend time in S tier. Buffs to Rampage's ultimate and overall buffs to armor see Rampage looking a bit more viable these days, letting him join Crunch, Fangmao, Shinbi, and Seraph in A tier. Grux got hit pretty hard with nerfs, making his difficulty to execute ganks and invades no longer really worth it. He's joining Countess, Richter, and Sevarog in B tier. Steel is struggling in jungle with slow clear and a need to build Brimstone. In comp, this pick may be more viable, but in a setting like public matches, he struggles to a large degree, even when piloted by the best Steel jungle players. He gets to hang out alone in C tier. Gideon was hit this patch with a slight nerf to his mono regen and Cosmic Rift, as well as a pretty significant nerf to his ultimate Black Hole, seeing a decrease in its pull strength, as well as being given a slight delay to the pull effect. While this ultimately didn't kill Gideon like we may have expected, it did make him healthier, and require a bit more thinking before you commit to the ultimate. Gideon still does Gideon things, having arguably the best teamfight ult that can change the tide of even the worst of situations. While Gideon may struggle in quite a few matchups now, such as Iggy, Countess, Gadget, and even Morigesh, his unmatched safety makes him an easy lock in every game in mid lane. Outside of his lane, his ability to throw portals to create team engage or disengage is virtually unmatched in value. Overall, Gideon will need to see more nerfs to kill his viability. He may have been knocked down a peg, but he still finds himself in S tier. One of the more interesting mid laners, Wraith, has seen significant changes in version 0.19, one of which is even more notable with the buffs to tanks that we've been seeing in the recent updates. Peekaboo's max health damage now increases with level, maxing out at 8%, which is an increase of 2% overall, to help knock down those pesky tanks and Orb of Growth users on the rise. Knock Knock also got a flat damage increase, as well as a bonus physical power scaling increase, which was nerfed back down a bit in version 0.19.1, resulting in a 5% increase overall. These buffs not only help him with the rising HP build prevalence, but as well as his ability to outtrade most of his lane opponents. Outside of Countess, Wraith fares extremely well in lane, if you are strong enough to pilot the high execution champion. In version 0.19.1, there are very few characters who can outburst down a single target quite as well as Wraith. Pick comps are the bread and butter. If paired with a jungler like Rampage or Terra, it's extremely easy to snowball into a devastating late game. Wraith has flown up the rankings, sitting nicely in S tier for those of you with the skills to pull off this pick. Heading into the full mid lane tier list, Howitzer's just barely qualifying for Paragon tier with his safety and massive damage output. Wraith joins Gideon, Gadget, and Morigesh, who sit in S tier. Iggy way outperformed my expectations last patch, but a slew of nerfs should bring him back in line. He will be joining the freshly nerfed Grim and freshly buffed Argus in A tier. Belica's buffs are not enough to save her, as she'll land in B tier alongside Shinbi and the questionably nerfed Faye. In C tier, we have Decker, who doesn't really have many reasons to be put in mid right now, and Countess, who might actually be a sneaky good pick for those Countess 1 tricks out there with Orb of Growth builds on the rise. Terra far exceeded expectations in version 0.18, being able to rapidly burst down nearly every hero in the late game. Patch version 0.19 aimed to bring her more in line, nerfing her bonus damage from her passive, nerfing both the base damage and the scaling of her alternate Mercy, and even taking her ultimate on-hit modifier down 5%. Even still, this wasn't enough to hold Kira back, so in 19.1, she was nerfed yet again, losing base damage on Dusk. Tanks also getting more love in these patches should help slow her down, and while she was slowed, she is still abusing on-hit to a lethal degree, rapidly dispensing tanks in the late game, and she's still a menace in the 1v1 against every other ADC. Quick burst damage with Mercy, rapidly increasing damage with Vengeance to deal with tanks, a dash to reposition in fights that also grants a power stim. More nerfs may be needed to bring Kira in line as she takes her crown in Paragon tier. The time has come. Grim has finally been brought back down to earth with nerfs to nearly every part of his kit. Grim's passive, Pulse Fire, lost a third of its base damage, dropping down from 15 to 10. Displacement Blast got a 5 flat damage nerf. Assault Mode got hit hard, losing 8% of its physical power scaling and 5% of its magical power scaling, as well as nerfs to its mana cost now being at 20 at all levels instead of scaling up to 20. On top of this, the mana restore is down 2 at all levels. GTFO, Grim's ultimate isn't safe either, losing 60 flat damage at level 1, while keeping a strong late game, only losing 10 at max level. With these much needed nerfs to Grim, this merely brings him in line with other high performing ADCs. His ability to space and chase down kills with his slow on autos makes him a nightmare to handle. His damage output and itemization is still incredibly powerful, easily shredding down tanky supports and being able to outbox most lane opponents like Twin Blast and Murdoch. What Grim lacks in safety, he more than makes up for in damage. With his bubble letting him block one ability, most junglers don't even have a guaranteed shot at killing him outside of Terra, Xeris, and Crunch. Our mini fridge is still a force to be reckoned with, and he ends up in S tier. With the ADC tier list, Kira takes the top in Paragon tier due to her insane tank shred and 1v1 potential. Drongo got a much needed attack speed buff, so we're seeing him join the former Beast Grim as well as Murdoch and Twin Blast in S tier. Wraith's viability in ADC is skyrocketing with his recent buffs, as well as his ability to bully Grim in the lane phase when paired with a support like Belica. Wraith finds himself alone in the A tier. While he was buffed, Rev still has a bit more to go before he can join his ADC friends. He may no longer be abysmal and unpickable, but he is still going to end up in the C tier to round off the ADCs. Now I realize I forgot to rank Sparrow. Sparrow's B tier. While Belica's performance in mid has left a lot to be desired after nerfs in recent patches, late in version 0.18, Belica started to emerge as the premier Grim counter in the support role, with her drone being able to instantly pop Grim's bubble, leaving him susceptible to knockups and quick burst damage when paired with an ADC like Wraith. While Grim did get nerfed, he should still hold a semi-premier spot in the ADC role, leaving Belica to be a great counter pickup late in draft. In version 0.19, Belica received a 10 base HP buff, helping out her durability slightly, as well as a 5% scaling buff, as well as a 0.5 second cooldown reduction to Void Bomb. While Belica may not be the most dominant support to just pick and play, she holds a massive value as a great counter pick and holds synergy with burst ADCs like Wraith and Revenant, who recently received buffs. Belica finds herself in A tier this time around. No one can stay on top forever, and Muriel was hit hard with some much needed nerfs to help bring her back down to earth in version 0.19. Muriel was hit with nerfs to her mana regen. Sentinel, her passive, lost 2 base damage as well as 3% magical power scaling. Serenity lost 10 base power at all levels. Consecrated Ground, her secondary, lost 25 base shield as well as 20 damage at all levels. Muriel's ultimate, Reversal of Fortune, sees a rather drastic nerf, losing base damage in favor of magical power scaling. A decrease in the shield by 70 going all the way up to a decrease of 90 at max level. Increased cooldown at level 2 and 3, all capped off with the knockup being reduced by 10%. Significant nerfs to Muriel's damage means she now struggles to trade in lane. Lower shielding in the early game with no hard CC in her kit means Muriel is easily dominated in the lane phase of the game. What saves her is everything after the lane phase. While she may not be dominant and may not be able to have as much impact in teamfights as she did in version 0.18, she is still a massive issue for low damage team comps, and her ability to split push while being able to be back with her team in nearly an instant means Muriel is still incredibly viable. After Reversal of Fortune, Muriel lands in A tier. The support tier list is the only role with no character in Paragon, as there's no single support that outshines the rest. Narbash, FaZe, and Decker all bring something specific to the table, either movement speed, disruption, or safety, and they all do it well, so they're all in S tier. Argus, getting a slight damage buff, as well as Steel and Richter, who received help from the overall tank buffs, land in A tier, alongside Muriel and Belica. Aurora has found an interesting niche in support with her ability to wall off waves to have a bit of unique control over lane state and a massively impactful teamfight ultimate. While these are all positives, her peel and engage are a bit awkward in lane, so Aurora is alone in B tier. Xerath post nerfs doesn't bring the damage he used to support, and with other tanks becoming more viable as the days go on, we lose more reasons to play Xerath support, so he will be alone in C tier. Welcome to the end of the video. Thank you all who made it this far, or if you were just clicking through the video to see like the ending tier lists, thank you all. Let me know what you think of this format. This is my second time doing this format. It's coming out kind of late. Some stuff was going on IRL, killed my motivation, depression, whatever you want to, you know, not going to go into too much detail. So this came out a bit late. In the future, I would like to have these videos done, you know, just a few days after the patch to get more information out there and to, like, you know, call my shots early on kind of thing. I also forgot Sparrow. Oops. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, go follow me on Twitch. There should be 2 videos on screen now. Give those a watch, and that's all for me. Bears out. Peace.